Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soundbyte. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be looking at Black Sabbath, going all the way back to the very beginning of what many consider the start of heavy metal. Obviously, the legendary Black Sabbath band calling it a day with an upcoming final concert in July 5th, I think it is, and with a absolutely tremendous lineup of just legendary bands. Um, Obviously, Black Sabbath have kind of gone down that road a couple of times, I think, in the past with like, farewell tours and stuff, which has become a bit of a thing with some bands, over the years. We not name the bands, but certain bands that have gone on their final tour and then sort of come back again. But I dare say that this Black Sabbath one will be their final one, especially with some health concerns with certain members and stuff. And obviously, Black Sabbath's been around for such a long time, and they were, really the purveyors of the beginning of heavy metal. That's been disputed, obviously, and there's been some talk of, some other bands like Deep Purple and stuff like that have people have been claiming that they're really kind of the first metal bands, but I think Black Sabbath was really the kind of the first one that was making heavy music, because I think there is a difference between metal music and heavy music sometimes, especially the original stuff anyway back in the day. So I think with their final concert coming up, I think it's fitting to sort of jump into a bit of Black Sabbath, and we're going to go to their very first album, which was released way back in 1970, and we're going to take a look at the track N.I.B, which is one of the more popular songs, I guess, and probably not, certainly not the heaviest one, that's for sure. Definitely had more of that kind of retro 60s sort of sound that they were kind of just coming out of with that first album. But it's a classic nonetheless. So here we go with NIB, Black Sabbath. Bit of Geezer Butler there. Just pausing it right there. Yeah, immediately you can just hear that really retro sort of sound that's quite prominent on that first Black Sabbath album. And obviously all of the earlier stuff has that sort of retro classic sound, obviously, but none more so than the first album, I think, because you got to think 1970, just coming out of the 60s, and Black Sabbath, for those who don't know much about the band's early history, they were kind of more of a blues band when they were first starting out. So there's obviously a bit of that. They sort of were still playing a part in on that first album. Obviously, the cover is quite iconic as well. Many people have taken pictures of, I guess, the original house is kind of still there or whatever. You see it all the time on the internet and stuff. So, yeah, very iconic. Just overall, just to think that that was the beginning of everything, as far as like not just metal music, but I think just yeah, it kind of started a lot of different things over the course of, the next, 40, 50 years. So it's amazing that that album is was out at that time because I don't know what the thinking was behind people who heard that kind of music for the first time, because it sounds kind of tame to us now, but like at the time you've got to remember there was nothing like it. There really wasn't. So even the song like that was just very kind of different, So even though it does still feel like that sort of 60s kind of vibe, So it's a great track nonetheless, though. It's timeless. That's why it's called classic rock because it's just a classic song.
I'm going to be all. I'm going to be
Got that
all.
tambourine in the background. Just subtle things like that,
Oh yeah. Now I have you with me under my palm. Our love grows stronger now with every hour. Look into my eyes, you'll see who I am. My name is Lucifer. Please take my hand. Follow me now, and you will not regret living the life you led before we met. You are the first to have this love of mine, forever with me till the end of time. Your love for me has just got to be real. If you know the way I'm going to feel, I'm going to feel.
I'm just stopping you right there. Um, the other thing that's interesting about Black Sabbath, and it sort of becomes quite prominent in at least the 70s stuff anyway, because that was kind of the only Sabbath that I kind of really paid much attention to. The recordings just sound for its time amazing. A lot of people might say, well, because it's the analog recordings or whatever, it's got that warmer sort of sound. But everything just sounds crystal clear on the bass, the drums, the vocals, guitars, like everything just sounds really, really clear. And yeah, you could put it down to the analog recordings, but there was just as many bad analog recordings back then as well. So it's just something about the way that they recorded it, the musicians that were playing, all that kind of stuff. I think the whole chemistry with the band just made them sound so on point, I guess. Because like I said, there is recordings from back then that just sound absolutely horrible, So I don't think it's just necessarily just the recording techniques and the equipment and all that stuff. It's just, at some point it's got to be about the band and musicians and what they're doing on their actual instruments. So it's just one of the things, just even on the first album, it just sounds amazing.
I'm going to feel. Now
about Lucifer. Gotta remember, at that time, it was pretty out there. There you go, Black Sabbath with NIB, and yeah, it's just a classic track, and just the way that way that it sounds at the end there, it definitely sounds like they were in a sort of room together and just jamming essentially. Because that was one of the things about Black Sabbath, at least with the earlier stuff, was it definitely had that kind of jammy kind of feel, which is kind of, it was a thing, I guess, back then. A lot of bands playing in these sort of psychedelic sort of rock bands and stuff. There was a lot of that jamming kind of thing going on, and then sort of, obviously Sabbath weren't necessarily improvising, but it definitely had that kind of feel, especially with Bill Ward's drumming. He has that sort of jazzy kind of drumming style. And jazz styles definitely always sounds like improvisation, So, um, yeah, there you go. But it's an absolutely iconic song, iconic album, iconic band. And July 5th, and just taking a look quickly at the poster here, July 5th, for their final show in Birmingham, which is their hometown. I've been to Birmingham once actually, and it's kind of a bit of an industrial sort of town, I guess. So you can kind of see if you've ever been there, why music like that would have come out of a place like that, because it's I guess back then, especially, I guess, a lot of the dark sort of, the weather and the vibe and all that kind of stuff, I guess. But obviously, Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne, Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, Gojira, Hellstorm, Alice in Chains, Lamb of God, Anthrax, Mastodon. I mean, it's just an absolutely killer lineup, and I believe that the show is already sold out. I think it's sold out within the first day or something, which is not surprising. Everyone wants to go see the final Black Sabbath show, and especially with that kind of a lineup as well. There you go, Black Sabbath, the self-titled album that was released way back in 1970, and the track NIB. Thanks for tuning in as always, and thanks for subscribing if you have. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button, and please follow us on all our social media, and I'll see you in the next video.